All right, so what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Uncle Project podcast. It's your host, Mr. T. And just a quick reminder, this is a value for value podcast where you can earn Satoshis for listening to this podcast. I know for sure on the Fountain FM app, um, but there's another app that I'm learning more about, CurioCaster. I think you can earn as a listener there as well. I know you can boost this podcast with Satoshis if you find something of value here on today's episode. And yeah, that's just how we're rocking for at least the solo episodes. Don't want to do a ton of ads or anything. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna just rock with the value for value model and kind of see how that goes. But yeah, so today's episode is another solo episode. Just want to continue to play around with this format and see where it goes, see what all we can accomplish with this. Uh, really just want to get into a habit of putting out some regular episodes in this format. It is pretty difficult to do solo podcast, but if anybody can handle it, it is your guy, Mr. T. I've been blogging for years, so um, just another way to get thoughts and ideas out, kind of freestyle it as opposed to just banging away at the keyboard like I usually do. By the way, go check out some posts on Hive. We'll try to make sure we get a link in the description for you to do so. But yeah, speaking of Hive, that's kind of what I wanted to chat about on today's episode. So, if you're a longtime follower of Mr. T or Big Taco Sensei, as my username is on Hive, about a year ago, well, a little longer than a year ago now, I completed the Google Data Analytics Certificate. And that's kind of one of the main things I wanted to do is kind of document that journey along um, learning those skill sets with this podcast, as far as like learning how to use like Excel, SQL, and R, and in that particular certificate program, they use Tableau. But it's been a long time since then, and my approach to like the whole data science portion of what I'm doing um, is a little bit different now. I think I'm going to be probably using more Power BI just because it's free and I have a better machine to run it now. So, yeah, recently got a new machine with a lot more RAM, um, and I've got an extra monitor, and I've got some things to help me learn in a better way. So, whenever I first did that Google Analytics Certificate, I did that course on, it was like a really good computer that I like to get like really cheap um, laptops, um, like from pawn shops, and just kind of um mod them, fix them up, um, and just kind of use those for my computers. Usually you can find like some really good steals on laptops at pawn shops, just a heads up. But I was working like on a really good computer for getting through that um, certificate. Learned a lot. It was a really good course for giving me the bare bones basics, more so of or more so for data analytics than um, data science, but uh, learned some really good basic SQL skills, Excel skills, and R skills. So as far as like projects after completing that certificate, as far as like learning how to work with any kind of coding language, it's all about like projects and experience. Like I did have a couple of things that I did, and it's not in Excel. They use Google Sheets, so I did have some things that I did in Google Sheets. Um, that kind of dealt with an area that I have interest in, which is the Hive blockchain and just kind of how I manage my rewards. Um, I used um, I used a lot of Google Sheets with that, but on the Hive blockchain, they also have Hive SQL. It's a program where um, I can't think of how to pronounce his name. I think it's A Carnage, but um, he organized like all the blockchain's data into a format to where we can access it through like a remote database, and kind of use SQL. And then they have like some ways um, use you can do like some analytics with Python as well. And I think once I get everything figured out on the SQL side of things, kind of get some queries ran. My main thing is I want to get some templates together for some different posts that I want to do. I want to do like some analytical posts that don't use candlestick charts. I kind of want to create some of my own graphs and things, and just make some cool posts for the overall community, just on whatever data sets I can get my hands on and kind of analyze and put analysis together for. Um, but yeah, I was going somewhere with that. Um, completely lost that. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm wanting to do um, with Hive SQL. Um, but yeah, I think it's going to be pretty cool, pretty tedious so far figuring things out, how to set up Hive SQL on my new computer. All right, so yeah, I was working on the course on that old computer, and that old computer got stolen, and I actually had to go get like a cheaper computer for a while. Um, and kind of had to rock with that the for a certain amount of months. Still able to do like some basic posting and things, but nowhere near what I can do on that previous computer or the new laptop that I have now. So now that I have this new laptop, I'm in the game and I'm figuring out how to really set Hive SQL up and everything, because I had gotten, as soon as I finished that Google Data Analytics Certificate, um, yeah, I kind of started working on like really basic stuff. Like I say, the project in Google Sheets, and I had registered for Hive SQL, but I didn't know what I was doing. And on top of not knowing what I was doing, I didn't have the best, after my computer had gotten stolen. The laptop that I had purchased after that wasn't the best. So, like, trying to figure these things out on that laptop was uh, even more of a headache than it was going to be just being a new person trying to figure these things out, how to set everything up. If you don't um, have a machine that's like up to par for the things that you want to do. Because this is not the only thing that I'm going to be doing on this laptop, obviously. But yeah, so I got my new laptop, um, kind of figuring things out, how to set SQL up. Um, and yeah, that's been really tedious. Um, so setting SQL up, getting my, let's see, open database connectivity drivers, ODBC. Yeah, getting those drivers installed and set up so I can connect to that remote database. And I know this is probably like really basic. This is so basic for somebody who's done this a billion times, but it's so new to me. But yeah, so getting that set up. Um, so I had it connected for a couple of days to where I had SQL Server set up on my laptop and I had the uh, ODBC drivers installed, and I was getting a connection between SQL Server on my laptop and the Hive SQL remote database. I was able to do this for like a couple of days in a row. All right, so I did get um MS SQL. What is this called? SQL Server Management Studio. It's just like the basic SQL, Microsoft SQL IDE, where you can do your queries in that program. But I wanted to do um, like my queries and things in MS Visual Studio Code. All right, so um, I figured out how to get um, SQL Server and the Server Management Studio hooked up to Visual Studio Code. And once I did that, I just figured out how to get it linked, but I couldn't figure out how to do queries, right? Um, so I got that linked in. Once I got that figured out, it was really tedious process. Um, I just wanted to go to bed and wake up the next day and get started with some queries. But I woke up the next day to get, uh, started running some queries for the Hive SQL because I know I was able to connect to the database. Like I was able to run successful tests, and I was also able to get um, access to the database in SQL Server Management Studio. I didn't run any queries. I just kind of got it hooked up and kind of went to bed from there. Because I wanted to do all my queries in Visual Studio Code anyway. So I knew I could get to um, my SQL Server to uh, the remote database, and I could get like my server management to Visual Studio Code. Bam. But when I woke up, I ran the test to see if I could, connect to the database, and I kept getting the error code um, for whatever reason. So now I'm at the point where I'm still able to connect my SQL server to my Visual Studio Code, but I'm getting this error code when connecting to um, the Hive SQL remote database from SQL Server. So I'm going to try to uninstall and reinstall my uh, ODBC drivers, see where that gets me. But once I get connected, man, I'm really going to be um, in position to really get um, some data cleaned up and ready to make some charts at least. I'm still going to need to figure out how to use Power BI. I think that's something I can use with SQL to make charts and things. I'm trying to do that. I think that'd be a pretty simple program to figure out. Like I said, I've used Tableau before, and I think a lot of those type of programs are really similar. So hopefully that is the case. So we can get those templates together for those posts. I think those would be really cool posts to do um, once I get everything together how I want. And yeah, um, just kind of in it for the tech, and it just kind of gives me a chance to learn something new. Like all of my Web3 journey has just been learning new things, whether that's blogging or through Hive or podcasting with Podcasting 2.0, um, on the Bitcoin Lightning Network. Um, yeah, I'm just all about learning, trying new things. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at on my SQL project. Um, man, I really want to get this figured out sooner than later, so I can get those posts out. And that's really just going to open up the door for me to make all kinds of new posts. Um, so, yeah, really excited about that. Um, I'm going to be learning some Python as well to kind of help, you know, make for a better skill set so I can do cooler things. But yeah, that's going to be today's episode. Solo episode, keeping it short, keeping it sweet. Be sure to subscribe to the Uncle Project podcast. Um, if you catch this post on Hive or on Noster, be sure to leave a comment. Let me know if you have any suggestions. If you're a person with experience in SQL, I do have a Stack Overflow post that I'll try to leave a link to. Um, I feel like I'm probably going to get this figured out before anybody has a chance to get to it. But still, any input is greatly appreciated. But yeah, that's going to be all for today's episode. Be sure to subscribe to the Uncle Project podcast, and I'll see you all on the next episode. Peace.